Welcome to this national workshop brought to you by the Department of English, DAV PG College, Varanasi, admitted to the privileges of Banaras Hindu University. The topic for this workshop was Enduring Scars, Trauma, Identity and Survival in Holocaust Literature. It was conducted from 21st to 27th of October by our esteemed resource person, Dr. Annie Vimila D., Assistant Professor of English, Faculty of Science and Humanities, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. It was brought to you by our acting principal, Professor Satyagopalji, along with our manager and secretary, Sri Ajit Kumar Singh ji, and Professor Sangeeta Jain ma'am, head of the department, English. The coordinators for this program were Dr. Bandana Channani ma'am and Dr. Najmul Hassan sir. The video editing of this workshop and some of the poster design has been done by Swarnil Bhattacharya. So let us begin the day 1 of our national workshop. Enduring Scars, Trauma, Identity and Survival in Holocaust Literature. Day 1.
Okay, so with the permission of the head, formally, I'm just going to start this workshop. So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Department of English at DAV PG College, Varanasi, it's my privilege to extend a heartfelt welcome to each of you as we embark on this 1 week online national workshop titled Enduring Scars, Trauma, Identity and Survival in Holocaust Literature. I am particularly delighted to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest and resource person, Dr. N. Vimla D., whose expertise will greatly enrich our discussions. I am also thrilled. Sir has not joined, but he is about to join very soon. I am also thrilled to welcome our chief guest for the workshop, Dr. Shardul Chaubey sir. Fine. When he joins, we will let you know more about him. It's my pleasure to offer a special welcome to our HOD, head of the department, Professor Sangeeta Jain, along with Professor I.G. Misra sir, Dr. Najmul, Dr. Mahima, Ms. Sanskriti. I also extend a warm welcome to our esteemed colleagues from other institutions, honored guests, dedicated research scholars, participants, and dear students. Additionally, I would like to recognize our esteemed guests who are going to join us today as they have promised, the professors from the other colleges. Thank you all for gracing us with your presence. We look forward to an enlightening and engaging workshop together. This workshop aims to explore the profound scars left on Holocaust survivors, scars that destroyed them physically, emotionally, psychologically. Our focus will be on how, despite the immense trauma they endured, these individuals displayed incredible resilience of the human spirit. Over the course of this week, we will embark on a deeply reflective journey, gaining insights into both the destructive forces of human nature and the extraordinary will to survive and rebuild, as Dr. Foster reveals through Mephistopheles. Quote, Hell hath no limits, nor is circumscribed in oneself place, for where we are is hell, and where hell is, there must we ever be. Unquote. Human ambition and actions have at times turned this beautiful, serene, paradisical world into a place of unimaginable suffering. But as Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychologist, wisely said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, We are challenged to change ourselves. Dr. Annie will expand on this theme, emphasizing the importance of personal transformation and resilience in the face of adversity. To further deepen this connection, I am reminded of Han Kang, who was recently awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for her poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life. Much like the Holocaust survivors, whose stories we will explore, Kang's works remind us that the brutality of humans cannot be forgotten, but the capacity to heal exists in the most unexpected places. This week promises to offer us a deep understanding of both the darkness of human cruelty and the light of the survival and hope. To grace this occasion, Sir has joined. Sardu sir, have you joined? I think he has not joined yet. So, Sangeeta, ma, should I introduce the speaker? Okay.
Yes, yes,
Before
yes.
we begin, Before we begin, it's my privilege to introduce our esteemed resource person, Dr. Annie Vimla D., Assistant Professor of English at the Faculty of Science and Humanities, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Dr. Annie is an accomplished academician, researcher, and especially a warm individual with expertise in culture studies, gender studies, and feminist writings. She completed her PhD on a study of visceral violence on women in select Holocaust memorials. Her research spans a wide array of areas, from Holocaust studies and trauma literature to cultural violence in Dalit writing. Dr. Annie has presented numerous papers at national and international conferences, and her brilliant research has been published in UGC Care and Scopus listed journals. Additionally, she has been honored with several gold medals for her academic excellence in both her undergraduate and postgraduate studies. Today's session will be divided into two parts. In the first part, Dr. Annie will introduce the themes, issues, and perspectives she will explore throughout this week. In the second part, she will delve deeper into today's topic, the enduring scars of trauma and survival in Holocaust literature. Ma'am, now I invite you for your presentation. Any ma'am? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for a very beautiful, warm welcome and a beautiful introduction. I thank Bandana ma'am and I thank our HOD for giving me this opportunity. And also, I thank all the participants who have joined here. I think we have the UG students. Most of you are UG. So I have planned
PG
to.
students and research scholars, all.
Oh, PG and
Yes.
research scholars. Okay. So I'm not going to bore you since it's a no 7 day long workshop. I promise that I'll not bore you with no theories after theories. But then half of my presentation will go like a story. So today, day one, we will see this is our content for today's session. What is in store? What we are going to see uh, for this whole 1 week, and then I have something for you, a picture. I want you to look at the picture, and I we will have a small discussion on the same. From there, we will move on to trauma. So today, we will focus on trauma and then the current trends in trauma. With that, our session will end. So, For the 6 days, these are the chapters we will be dealing with. First, today we will touch upon trauma, but I'm just going to introduce trauma because for the even till the 6th day, we will have this trauma as a topic. We will touch upon that again and again. Tomorrow I'll talk to you about the history of Holocaust. What happened during Holocaust, what happened before Holocaust, and what's happening now. We will discuss all that. And then we will move on to identity erasure. What is identity and what happened inside the concentration camp? Like from 3rd day onwards, we will concentrate on the concentration camps of the Nazis. So we will touch upon identity erasure on the 3rd day, and then we will talk more on dehumanization. Um, and then we will move on to resistance and resilience. See, all of this identity, erasure, dehumanization, resistance, resilience. I'm not sure about resistance and resilience, but identity erasure and dehumanization is not something that happened in Holocaust, that happened inside the concentration camp, but it is happening even now. We are not sure where it is happening. We are not sure in what form it is happening. Maybe the forms are different, that is all. So we will see all this. You might think, see, now look at this. I'm talking about scars and trauma and identity, survival. All of that has a negative connotation. But then I have flowers all over. You know why? Because since the topic is going to be very sad, very pathetic, we are going to sympathize and empathize with people. I thought at least my PPT should look beautiful with all lovely colors and flowers. So that's the idea behind all the flowers. So don't mistake me. You may think what this ma'am is talking about scars and she has flowers in her PPT. So now I want you to look at this picture. I'm giving you 1 minute time. Just be quick and tell me what story you can bring up with this image. There is one man standing and he has a very big head. He is unable to hold his head on his neck. Therefore, his head is falling and he is also he's going to tumble and fall. So that is the picture. What meaning can you write over this picture? He is overthinking, very good. He must be a person like me because I overthink a lot. Probably that's my picture. So overthinking one. Any other answers? Go to your chat box. I'm just giving you 1 minute, and we are running out of time. Just type your answers. Big brain dies soon. Okay. So are you meaning that we should learn only a little? Lot of responsibility. Very good. Going with the context, the Jews could not hold their head high. How beautiful. Okay. Nishata, you have a very beautiful way of imagining things and connecting things. Feeling the burden of existence. Very good. Psychological breakdown. Okay. Now, even I have created a few topics or few ideas which could go with this. See, he's overthinking. Somebody has said that already. He has studied a lot, head weight, he is abnormal. No, the sculptor is great, crazy. And I see a lot of messages popping up. So he's overwhelmed by the emotions taking over his mind, probably represents the modern man having trouble figuring out his existence. Okay, now I have given you, say, around 20 or maybe around 15 ideas, and now look at us, all the options given. We all talk about something negative. Don't you think so? He's overthinking, overreading, overanalyzing, he's hurting himself. No, all of this. Now look at this. I have few other set of ideas. Now read it yourself. Brains and brilliance in abundance, carrying the weight of genius, big head, bigger ideas, overflowing with wisdom, a mind full of wonders, thinking on a grand scale. Genius takes space, a head filled with brilliance, where imagination knows no limit. Ideas so big they need extra room. Now, what is the difference you can find for the last few set of ideas and the set of ideas that you're seeing now? The last few sets, they had some negative um, connotation. It was in the negative shape. But now, if you look at these ideas, the same image, but all positive, no emotions. You are not sorry anymore looking at the image. Earlier, you are sorry. You feel sad for this person. But now, when you look at the same image and you read all these captions, probably you're happy looking at the man. You think that the man is happy about it, happy about having a big head. Now, this is the change that I am trying to bring out when we are talking about Holocaust and trauma and all other things. So that is one important thing why no I chose the title. You talk scars, you talk about survival, you talk about fight, you talk about trauma and all other things. But amidst that, it is no possible to enjoy life. That's what I am trying to tell you. Now, before getting into the next slide, I want the students to tell me what is trauma according to you, or you can also give me some examples of trauma that you experienced. Is there anything like that? If a teacher knows scolds you for not submitting the assignments on time, we say we get into depression because a particular teacher scolded me. It happens. And you know very well that using mobile phones for a very long time will get you into depression, but still we overuse mobile phone, we get into depression. We have a lot of this. What is trauma? A depressing experience, psychological stress. Have you experienced trauma? Somebody would say, "Oh, I lost my mother. That's a traumatic experience I had. I lost my father, or I lost my parents, I lost my siblings. That's very traumatic," you would say. What else could be traumatic? Nostalgic fear, okay. Mental breakdown. We could also use all no the abuses and assaults that we came across that could come under trauma, isn't it? A particular event or series of events that puts a person in a state of mental and emotional inertia. It subdues our senses of purpose and practical thinking. Okay. So now we think of all this. But today, this is your idea. Tomorrow, again, I'll be asking you the same question, and you will definitely have a very different answer. And on seventh day, when we again have a feedback section on all of this, I tell you, take it from me, you will feel blessed. You lost your parents, you will still be grateful. You lost your scores, you lost your grades, you'll still be no grateful. Whatever happened to you, you will be still grateful, because what we are going to see for the upcoming days will actually change your no way of looking at life, because it has done that to me personally. When I started working on Holocaust literature, when I started reading Holocaust literature, the text, I used to cry every day. I used to cry for pages to pages. I used to cry. And then it was so depressing. I felt like all my friends, other friends are working on romances. Another friend was working on Game of Thrones, another one on Harry Potter. Why the hell should I work with this Holocaust literature? Because it keeps me crying. And then, the way now I look at life is entirely different from the way I looked at life earlier. So I promise you that your way will also definitely change. But this national 7 day program is named workshop. Workshop is where you have active participation. So I'm happy that all of you are able to answer. But this active participation is requested even at home, meaning I might give you some tasks, some homeworks, which you will do and you will get back to me so that we will have proper discussion. I don't want this to be a monologue where I keep talking and you keep listening, because I do not know where the listening ends. So let us make this as a two-way conversation. Even if you couldn't on your mic and speak, you can always post your messages, your comments on the chat box, because that's how we can communicate here. So now, trauma has a Greek meaning. It has a Greek origin, which simply means a wound or an injury. Say you fall down or you had an accident, you're bleeding, that's all. But then when you come to your psychology, in the context of psychology, trauma refers to emotional or psychological shock. I believe many have answered the same thing. So you have a emotionally or psychologically you're shaken. That could be called trauma. Trauma is viewed as an event that fragments consciousness and prevents direct linguistic representation. Now, I tell you this. Uh, a few years back in Chennai, we had tsunami. Okay, I think 2006, if I'm not wrong. So those who saw it directly, if you try asking them what happened, they were unable to put that in words. Though they tried, it was in fragments and they were unable to give what happened in full. Or one best example that I would tell you is, take any accidents for that matter, any serious accidents. Most of them will take time to talk because of the shock. So some people will take even days to open up. So this is what trauma is. When you are in this trauma, when you experience trauma, the research says that it stops your mind from thinking, from opening up, and from finding words so that you can put them in words and tell. So uh, you become uncommunicative, or I would say you become no incapable of expressing what you experienced. So that is there. The second thing is, the experience of trauma often involves a belated and disrupted response of overwhelming events. See, again, I'm telling you this car accident. See, just imagine there is a car accident happened, and say in front of your, okay, let us not put you people into these bad example. Let us say there is one car accident happened and there is one person who has witnessed his own little brother dying in front of him. Okay, now that is trauma for him. Okay, and then what happens? He should call someone and he should say what is happening to him. So he calls the police, and somehow now he is alive. But then he, at that point, he will not be able to uh, communicate the trauma. He may be communicate. He may tell you how the accident happened. He may say, "I saw the car coming," or "I saw the van coming and hitting us." With that, it stopped. He will not say how he felt. That is impossible when he is in the he is experiencing the trauma, or he will be unable to express the feelings that he had for his brother. How he was helpless, he will not be able to say. But when he has recovered, most of my examples were like this. Because we are talking about trauma, I have no other go, but all my examples are so negative. Okay, now if a person no experience car accident, that person after recovering, if you ask him to get into the car again, he will he will really feel no scared for getting into the car, because he will be reminded of the past experience. The past experience will flash in front of his eyes again and again, making him to remember that past traumatic event. This is called post traumatic event. But again, why I'm talking about post traumatic event here is, when the trauma is actually happening, when you are into the fire, when you are in the car accident, You will only think of how you survive. You will not feel the pain. But once you survive, you feel all the pain coming back to you. The pain of not able to save this little brother, the pain of no having committed a grave mistake during driving. All this keeps coming back. So that is proper trauma. So trauma is like you when you're experiencing trauma, your language becomes zero. You will find it very difficult to communicate. That is why no when people are very silent, the first question we ask is, why are you so depressed? We do not know if he is really depressed or if he's no in some other mode. But then if you're silent, it means no the person is unable to communicate the trauma that he is feeling. So that is one important thing you should remember. The second thing is uh, those accidents or those traumatic past will come as episode, will come. See, when you're sleeping, you will have that. You must have watched a lot of movies where no children no have this kind of shock. They no they have a jerk during nights. They come back and no they remember the same scene no coming into their mind again and again. So this is trauma. I think I have uh, done enough of explaining what trauma is. We will move on to Freud and trauma. I chose Freud because Freud is one person in the beginning. He is one person who started talking about trauma, the proper trauma. And you know why I chose trauma again? Because he talks about hysteria as the studies in hysteria as the book he has written, where he talks about how abuses in the child and in women make them know become very hysterical in nature. See, when a child is being abused sexually, and if the child is with the unknown people, the child will feel this hysteria. The child will not feel safe. So this is because of the traumatic experience that the child had in the earlier young age. So now for Freud, this trauma is nothing but the experience that a child had in his childhood. That is why today we talk about all this toxic behavior. You call someone toxic, you say that this person is toxic, and you also connect that with his childhood. And you say this person is behaving this way because this person had such and such childhood. If you ask me, of course, there are a lot of possibility for having this childhood pain, childhood lifestyle, childhood experience reflecting in the adulthood. But at the same time, it is not something that couldn't be changed. It can be changed when you are very conscious. So now he talks about this is again very important. He talks about delayed revival as a memory. See, let us say there is one fire accident happening, and at that particular time, you will not feel the pain. Of course, you feel the pain, but you also think of how to come out of that. But only after coming out, you will have the full emotion. That is what every people are trying to say. Now let us imagine uh, an abuse, let us say sexual abuse is happening. That the girl in the event, she will not think of how painful the act is. She will only think of how to get out of that. But after getting out of that, she will have the fear. She will think how people have misused, how people are very moralless. All this thought process and all this emotions comes only after the event. So during the event, you only think of surviving it and coming out. How to come out of that? How to be normal? How to have a better environment? That is all we will have in the mind. And now, this protection shield that human possess is damaged by external stimuli like traumatic experiences. See, we all believe that we are okay. But if we go deep, if we dive deep into ourselves, we will know, only then we will know if we are okay. There are certain parts, there are certain wounds that we have in our life which may heal or have been healed already or will be or like we are in the healing process, we are not sure. But Freud says everything happened in the past and you only have that traumatic experience in the adulthood, from the childhood, he says. But what I am going to focus for all the 6 days is Katika Ruth's trauma, where she views trauma as a event, as an event that fragments our consciousness. Because, as I told you, even if you take any memoirs for that matter, they can never write everything as happened, like day one, all of this happened, day two, this and this happened. They couldn't do it. They only have the fragments of memory. They have this fragment of memory because what they underwent is so much. It is not easy for them to have pictured all of that. See, imagine you going for a birthday party and then you remember everything because it is a beautiful moment. You remember cutting the cake and then dance and then food. That's easy. But then imagine you get into, you were caught somewhere and then people started beating you. How will you say that one person, started beating with a scale first and then someone came with a, with a rope and then another person came with that memory is difficult. So traumatic memory is always fragment and it is belated. The belatedness is what everybody talks about. When the trauma is happening, you think of survival, but after surviving, after coming out of that traumatic event, you feel the trauma, you feel the memory coming, you feel all the other side effects of that trauma happening. The traumatic experience irrecoverably damages the psyche. As I told you, no, after such traumatic experience, people have irrecoverable damages. Say, as I told you earlier, one best example that I could think of is a child who was abused in his young age, or a child who was abused in her young age. She will have that fear till the death, because that traumatic event is damage the child so much. The same happens for adult as well, but that would be a very easy imagination. And their memory is fragmented, and along with that, they are disassociated. For them, the traumatic event becomes a very big chapter in their life, and all other things become very smaller for them. And then they start uh, judging, or they start living their life with the sets that they have from this dissociation. They have set the value already from the traumatic experience they had, and that's how they are going to judge their future. So neurobiological response to trauma is universal, that is speechless terror. Of course, when you find a predator coming near, of course we shout for help. All that is there. But when the trauma comes in a very different level, when a predator comes to you, attacks you, uh, or when a car comes to hit you, all of that or is going to happen even. But when the thing is actually happening, when you see a monster coming inside your classroom, all of a sudden you only become speechless. So the speechlessness, being silent during traumatic events, all of that will be discussed in our upcoming classes. So when I say trauma, is it only on Holocaust? No, you can find trauma everywhere in any literature. One good example is war literature, where uh, soldiers or the victims, they may talk about what happened to them. Post-colonial writings, because how Britishers, they were ruling us, or how they are ill-treating us, you can talk about it. Feminist writing is mm, my area of research, I would say, because women also talk about traumatic event, but then uh, the voices are very less. Only a minimum people are talking about it. Today, the scenario is entirely different, but still, when you want to talk about trauma, I think all of this area, or potential area of study. Psychoanalysis, what happened with the psychology, medical humanities. When I say medical humanities, you know you can read a lot of memoirs being written by cancer patients or the caregivers. No, the patient suffering is different. And the caregiver who is supposed to sacrifice a lot to care this particular person, that is a very entirely different story. We only knew that cancer patients are suffering or somebody in the deathbed is suffering, but nobody talks about who the caregivers, but because they actually suffer a lot. They have a life to live on their own, they have certain responsibilities, but then they sacrifice all that just for their loved ones. And that is more you know traumatic than being a patient itself. So you have a lot of stories written on that. So they all come under medical humanities and life writings. I have worked on life writings, like how those women survivors survived Holocaust. And life writings, you even have here in India a lot of life writings which talk about such experiences. And Dalit literature, as you know, the marginalized people, how they are marginalized and what they are suffering, how they are suffering, you could talk about that. LGBTQ, this is again one blooming study of research in recent times, I would say. Here also you have trauma in two ways. One is the medical way of how they undergo certain surgeries to take the gender that they really want to take. So that is there. The second thing is how they are psychologically abused. They are left alone, they are thrown out of their home by their own parents. All of this comes under trauma and literature. And when you talk about trauma, what actually it speaks? Is it only about the pain? Is it only the physical pain? No, it's not just that. It talks about psychological impact. The first one, as I told you, it comes after after the event happens. You have the episodic problems. The memory comes in the episode, and you feel the terror again and again as if it is happening new, as if it is happening fresh, as if the event is live. So that is psychological impact. You can talk about post traumatic stress and emotional numbness. So there are people, if you remember Mrs. Dalloway, you will also remember Septimus. Septimus, in the end, he committed suicide. But before that, when the wife was talking, when she was talking, recollecting all the beautiful moments, that person was emotionally numb because he has already given up. He was into so much of trauma because he saw his friend dying in front of his own eye. So that is psychological impact. And then memory and representation. Now, this is where our Holocaust comes because when the event was happening, only very few handful of people wrote it. They documented it, I would say, because at that point pencil and pen are prohibited. If you have pen and pencil, probably they would kill you. It was like that, the situation. So they wrote from their memory and then they represented. They wanted to write because they want to represent what happened to them. This representation comes from a community. It's not just I write. If I write about what is happening to women. So it is about community, narrating what is happening for uh, the community that I'm trying to represent. And then social and cultural dimensions like genocides and all the natural disorders, like disasters like tsunami, as I was discussing, and other things. And, you know, when the tsunami occurs, it is not just about the death that is happening during the tsunami, but what happens after tsunami, after death. People became homeless. They lost all their belongings, they lost their loved ones. And if I'm going to write about what happened during tsunami and what happened when I lost my father in tsunami, if I'm going to write that, then that becomes that has the social and cultural dimension in the trauma. And healing and recovery. Now, this is the beautiful part of talking about trauma. See, if I talk about trauma, if I talk about only trauma, then I am a failure. I should also talk about healing, or at least in some point in the future, I should have healing, because trauma is, people look at trauma and depression and all of that as something that nails you to something. But I believe it is always, you look more beautiful when you, know, when you bloom in the war field. That is what I personally believe. So if you come across trauma, if you have experienced trauma, then there is a promise of healing. There is a hope in healing and recovery. So you can talk about that in your study if you're doing your research. So this is a very small, very brief introduction to trauma. As we move on to the other days, we will look into more about it. But before that, I want you to uh, come up with uh, idea for genocide. Tomorrow, when we are meeting again, say what is genocide, and maybe I want 4 or 5 people to give me some example of genocides that happened other than Holocaust. Because Holocaust is the only thing that I can talk about. So I want you to talk about something else. Yes? I think I'm finishing my presentation on time. If you have any questions, please you can ask. Or you can
Um,
post your questions as well. But
okay.
for all the PG students, the homework is tomorrow you're coming with one story, with one different genocide that you read from history.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an enlightening and thought-provoking session. Your insights have truly deepened, I can say, my understanding of the enduring scars left by trauma, not only in Holocaust literature, as you have said, you will discuss further about human experience. Especially, I was very spellbound by the picture which you have shown, and it made me realize that how negative we are. The way you have given so positive explanation of this thing, really, it was very wonderful, and I expect that in the upcoming sessions, we will continue this journey. Uh, Now, I want to, it is the time for the remarks of the chief guest, Dr. Sardul Chaubey, sir. Sir, are you there? Okay. So, for formal vote of thanks, now I invite Professor Sangeeta Janam.
Hello, am I audible, students? Yes, yes, any genocide other than Holocaust. That is your homework. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Dr. Annie, for the wonderful deliberation, for the wonderful presentation, and for delving deeper into the trauma. What is trauma and the after effects of trauma? Trauma is not actually what happens to you, the accident or anything which affects psychologically, but the thing which continues after it periodically. It keeps on affecting you. That is what makes it trauma. And then resilience, and how we overcome the trauma. That is more important. And you have given insights in different kinds of trauma it affects. Thank you so much, Dr. Annie, and about Holocaust and its impact upon humanity we are going to have from tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much, dear students. Thank you, Dr. Annie. Tomorrow we are meeting. Okay, thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a
Thank
minute.
you. Thank you so
Anyone, do
much,
you
ma'am.
have a time? Because some students have posted the questions little late. One question at least you can take from the chat box.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody has asked for the presentation, and I can send all the presentation on the seventh day. And there is another question regarding the homework. I want you to work on other geographical borders other than Holocaust. Don't look at Holocaust because I can talk to you about Holocaust. Look at other genocide. Somewhere that happened in Africa or elsewhere, you can talk about that.
Ma'am, actually,
Then,
Shardul sir
Morning,
yes,
has
ma'am.
sir.
joined as well. So I
In fact,
welcome you, sir.
thank you very much.
Yes,
And
sir.
sorry for
For
the
the
inconvenience.
participants, no, sir, it's okay. For the participants, they should know about you that sir is a dynamic and versatile personality with 25 years of rich experience in various capacities. He is currently serving as the Senior Assistant Registrar at BHU. He has spent 10 years of teaching management and journalism. In addition, he has worked with various media channels and has presented live shows on local networks covering local, state, and Lok Sabha elections. Sir, welcome you, and especially now, if you can throw light or any remark about today's workshop, sir, you are welcome.
Thank you, Professor Vandana. In fact, I was supposed to join early, and sorry to the participants, but not taking much time. In fact, Holocaust is a bad memory for all of us. During normally we consider it during the Second World War, the way Jews were treated, and it was a kind of historical fault or something which every time the people used to relate, and mostly I was just going through the past of Jews, because in history we all come to know about the kind of sacrifice, the kind of burning of the people, the great devastation to the humanity. So we find that human being is very heterogeneous, and the difficult time when the humanity decides, when humanity decides, uh, it is basically the kind of environment, the kind of experiences, the kind of education which is provided. So that makes a difference to the humanity. That's why we have the rating of the different kind of nations, countries, their environment, even the continent. When you go into the past, you find that geographically, historically, sociologically, politically, economically, we find varied reasons for this kind of devastation to the human being. Human being means there is always a fight for the power and authority. There is always power seekers in the society, but the means are always different. So when you consider all those things, the ultimate aim of the people, when it becomes not the means, but only to obtain the power, that creates a huge problem to the humanity itself. And as a human being, now in the past 100 years, we could got the civilization in the different stages, because our human civilization took different phases, different stages, and with the different stages we find that some inventions, some destruction, and time to time the setup at different, you can say, the of the environment, like social, political, economic, even your literature provides n number of reminiscences, or also in fact, the historical account of all those things. But when you mention, the literature provides you the understanding of the human trauma, understanding of the kind of genocide, understanding of the Holocaust, which the people normally suffered without any mistake, without any crime, without any fault. So this fault lines is created by the power seekers, and they don't understand the basics, that why the society lives, why the human being lives, why the human being survives. So I was having a very, as a student of different discipline, and now in a very particular place like trauma centers, we find accidental cases here. But when the accidents are not created by the nature, by other thing, it is a human being who creates such kind of trauma to the human being. So we have seen that in the last 100 years, an environment was created during the first World War, Second World War also created, where Jews are still remembered, their causes are still remembered. Now the same Jews is causing some kind of Holocaust in the 21st century in the Gaza, and more or less you find the same thing they are repeating in other places like Lebanon nowadays. Their causes are very important to understand. In the same way, you have the medium or media, because I can relate with the media. Media has become nowadays a traumatic, uh, created a traumatic situation and propagator of all these ill evils. And earlier we were finding that global village concept was becoming very good, very positive for the human being. their knowledge can be increased, their understanding can be increased, their causes can be increased. But unfortunately, there are people who are still devoid of that kind of understanding of the thing. So they are getting this propagation from the media. If you remember Radio Rwanda created a big problem in the African nation, and it created kind of Holocaust to one of the tribe in the south in the Africa. So when you come to know about all those things, in the same way in our 21st century, if you analyze one by one, you find that after taking the lesson from Second World War, we find that the humanity or human being realize that this is not the ultimate aim, because the nuclear holocaust was also seen in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So at that time, it was realized that how to avoid any kind of such outbreak of the World War. But after 50 years of all those havoc, or you can say the human suffering of the Second World War, the lesson what was learned is now in the present situation. We find that the kind of sectarian society, the kind of regional mindset, the kind of nationhood, despite finding it that globalization has made the life easier for us, but this globalization has disintegrated us on many ways. Because earlier we thought that globalization has integrated economically, but economic prosperity is not the only thing. Where is the behavioral science? Where what kind of human behavior is needed? Each and everyone, if they have hatred, if they have ignorance of how the human suffering should be treated, should be handled, that will create a kind of situation where Holocaust sort of thing will be a part of it. India already had this kind of situation in 1947, when for the sake of power and the sake of authority, the Britishers or the colonial system means divided many of the nations on the basis of race, religion, caste, society, or any of the thing, geography. We find it, and still, despite knowing that, we took the lesson, or the humanity took the lesson. The big powers created UNO sort of thing in order to avoid such a situation which happened during or after World War. But still, the human mindset, the human emotions, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. The positive people always take the path of serenity, calmness, peacefulness. But there are other people who always create a problem, who always see the problem, they never find a solution. So that result into the Holocaust. If it is in your family, there are people who create problems. If they are in the part of the society, they create the problem. If they are thinking of negative sort of thing, they create problem to the country and also to the entire humanity. So Hitler was one of the cause when he found Jews as a race which was who killed Jesus Christ in 2000 years ago, or you can say 1900 years ago, and he had some radical thinking about race. So it created 6 million extermination of the Jews, and that led everyone to realize that such kind of thing can happen in our memory, because what happened earlier was not at all known to most of the people. Only the historians could gather those information. But now we are finding it out, even on the media channels, we are finding that they are propagating all those things. So it's a very difficult task, and it's a very difficult time, especially in our time. So you people who are also the student of PG, I suppose, Dr. Vandana, you can tell well, they all are the student of PG? They all are the student of PG,
Yes, sir.
postgraduate.
PG, research scholars and alumni also.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying
Yes,
that
sir.
our time is very difficult time, where the positive thinking has to be propagated, because the way the standard of living, standard of thinking improved, but our standard of mindset is not improving. So once a situation comes out where everyone will seek the power in terms of economic, in terms of political, in terms of social, logical thought process, so this race will be very poor race, and will keep this human being, humanity, because it looks very simple words, but it is very difficult when you see the kind of communal position is we are having. And in the same way, if we see the entire continent, our Asian continent is very much disturbed on the basis of this kind of division in terms of race, religion, caste. So that's why my submission, especially for this national workshop, because when we talk about the literature, there are n number of literature, n number of films. Because my second PhD, which I am doing on cinema business, I am finding that when we go through, we find that even the films, documentaries are showing that what will be the ultimate destruction if any kind of Holocaust happens to the community, to the humanity. So my submission in this national workshop is that you all people of the 21st century, which is maturing, you are in the 20, this is the 24th year and it is on the verge of the completion. You must go through the best literatures, or the literature which remembers us about all those things which happened in the past, and their situation, their next generation suffered a lot. And I am very happy to tell you that this time Nobel Peace Prize is given to one of the sufferers of the Holocaust, nuclear Holocaust of Japan. So the Nobel Peace Prize is given to that community, that society. So take care of all those things, and that's all I have to say, because all the literature is already told by one of your expert. Thank you very much, Vandana.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for adding a new dimension to our topic, enduring scars, trauma, identity, and survival in Holocaust literature, especially the role of media or contemporary scenario, which you have talked about. That's going to be very fruitful for us to understand further this discussion. So now it's a time to conclude, to end this session. So once again, thank you to each and everyone. Thank you to resource person. Thank you to Sardul sir. Thank you to all participants. So we are going to meet again tomorrow. Any information regarding anything, we will share through the WhatsApp. So it's a request. Please stay tuned. Fine. Thank you. Great day ahead. And one more before the ending. Oh, sorry, sorry. Please, it's a humble request to all of you. Kindly turn on your cameras, okay, so that we can have a group photo. Fine. Thank you. So we are going to meet again tomorrow at 12:30.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.